New in the last 5 minutes, Iceland's leaders to boycott Russia World Cup over Salisbury attack. In the last 10 minutes, Russian diplomats expelled. In the last half hour, Britain shared unprecedented intelligence over spy attack. In the last hour, NATO joins 27 countries, expels Russian diplomats, and clear signal to Putin, who is not expelling Russian diplomats. State Department explains expulsion of 60 Russian intelligence agents from U.S. Why this round of expulsions may bring U.S. Russia to breaking point. Expelling Russian diplomats, a very significant step for the president, criticizes Slovakia's stance towards Russian diplomats. A new energy game on the horizon. NATO joins 25 nations in Russian expulsions over spy attack. German MPs. Expulsion of Russian diplomats from EU was done in a rush. Expulsion of Russian diplomat will not go unanswered, ambassador warned. In the last 2 hours, snowballing consequences of nerve agent attack in UK. Australia, preparing for retaliation over Russian expulsions. Welcome to a world no longer led by Moscow and Washington. Expulsion of Russian diplomats shows lack of Western states' sovereignty. Russia warns of retaliations over mass expulsions. Belgium to expel 1 Russian diplomat. Trump addresses Russia with French, German leaders. Cyprus won't take action against Russia as is member of Security Council. State Department. Russian expulsions might not make U.S. elections any safer. Video. Theresa May discusses global crackdown on Russia as NATO joins 25 countries pledged to kick out Russian diplomats over poisoning of ex-spy Putin. Russia and the hard truth about election meddling. All the countries that expelled diplomats. Kremlin plans to retaliate after expulsion of Russian diplomats in the last 4 hours. The one thing all the countries expelling Russian diplomats have in common: more countries back UK's anti-Russia stance. NATO joins wave of Russian diplomat expulsions. NATO and 26 countries expel Russian diplomats. Strong signal to Kremlin as NATO and 26 countries expel Russian diplomats. Irish government faces pushback on decision to expel Russian diplomat. 8 more Russians sent packing from Belgium. Expulsion of Russian diplomat. Active solidarity with UK, says Tasha. EU majority stands with United Kingdom in its fight with Russia. NATO expels 7 Russian staff. As backlash against Putin continues, NATO joins in mass expulsion. Bill Richardson. Russian expulsion feels like old times. Czech president. Where is Britain's evidence in Skripal case? SBU bans 23 Russian diplomats from entering Ukraine. Macedonian president says decision to expel Russian diplomat hasty. Another voice. Russian expulsions a good first step. NATO expels 7 Russian diplomats in wake of spy poisoning. Trump discuss with Merkel and Macron expulsion of Russian diplomats. Lavrov hits out at moves to expel Russian diplomats. NSC spokesman. Trump didn't want to warn Russia of diplomat expulsions. Diplomats expulsion complicates U.S.-Russian Pacific Partnership Council out in the cold. Mass expulsions of Russian diplomats over spy poisoning. Austria draws scorn for sitting out Russian diplomat expulsions. Poisoned president. I know what Putin fears. McLaughlin. Russian retaliation is a very Cold War thing to do. Major expulsions of Russian diplomats over 4 decades. Skripal case. Many Russians feel Moscow not to blame. Russia vows to retaliate over expelled envoys. NATO expels Russian diplomats to send message about Skripal case. In the last 6 hours, NATO expels Russian diplomats over ex-spy. NATO expels 7 Russian diplomats. Australia, Ireland. NATO expel Russians. Ireland says to expel Russian diplomat. Moscow's envoy blasts move. NATO expels Russian diplomats after Salisbury nerve agent attack. NATO expels 7 Russian diplomats over spy poisoning. Moldova joins global response to spy poisoning. Expels 3 Russian diplomats. Why are countries expelling Russian diplomats? EU-Russia, a Cold War brewing.